worldwide affairs have a place in your day, this is the place you will want to stay. The Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast with your host, world-renowned voice of Garvey and global news commentator, Ron Bobb-Semple.
Greetings and welcome to the Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast. We will be addressing global issues that impact our day-to-day lives.
For 7 years now, we have been coming to this country. We have been facing with humiliation, pain, racism, exploitation, discrimination. But we have always remained silent. But I believe today, as we Haitians going through this hard time in Guyana now, I believe it's time now for us to come out and speak. We have always been the people who are targeted. We have always been the target. We have always been the ones that have been humiliated in the press. It is time that we say something. For the past few days, people have been reaching out to me and tell me what exactly we're going to do. Hey, I understand some people send sympathies and so on. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I have this to say. We Haitians, we try hard to keep a clean record in this country. And the police could certify this. We keep a clean record, never involved in any type of crime. We try our best because we know why we leave our country to come here. We did not leave our country to come here to commit a crime, but to seek for a better life. That's why we came here, to seek for a better life. We try our best to keep it safe, to keep it clean, and so forth. But still, we are the ones that they put in jail for no reason. We are the ones that they humiliated all the time. We are the ones who are always been targeted. And still we're trying to remain silent. We never say anything. But enough is enough. The CARICOM, the Caribbean, owe us a debt of gratitude. Because we Haitians, we bring freedom to the world. And we deserve to be respected. This country was built by black people, by our ancestors, our brothers and sisters. They built this country. They were brought here and they were executed. They worked hard to build every corner of this country. And when you try to chase us Haitian away, you clearly prove that you don't value the work of my ancestors. How do you think Kofi feel when you see how y'all treat black people in this country? Kofi, a West African man who came here in this country, started a revolution right here in Bobby's with 2,500 other slaves. Today, Guyanese would call Kofi their hero. But you think about this. When you call yourself a Guyanese and you trying to chase black people away of Guyana, you know what you do? You spit on Kofi's face because he did not fight for this. Kofi did not fight for this. In 1763, Kofi fought for that country. And today, you guys have his image all over the country. You guys call him national hero. But do you believe Kofi had fought for this? For this racism will never stop? Come on. We left Haiti to come here to seek for a better life. We're running away to save our life and our family. You now want to close your door on us? How do you think a man like Jack and his father Kwamina, who fought in this country in 1823, they gathered 10,000 slaves Just after the Haitian had won independence in 1804, we inspired the whole world, the whole Caribbean, to start a revolution. And right here in Guyana, Jack Gladstones and his father Kwame started the revolution, 10,000 slaves. And just after the revolution, this country was free. Slavery abolished in this country. Just after his revolution, we Haitians inspired the world to stand up for their rights. And now, just because back home we have so much struggles, we have so much problem, you want to close your door on us? Don't you think you spit on Forbes Bonham's face when you do that? This man fight for this country. This man take this country and make this country turn into a republic. This man wrote the constitution of this country. He became the first prime minister of this country. He became the first president of this country. This how you guys spit on his face, chasing away black people. This country was built on black people. Mr. Kwame fought for this country, started a revolution with his son, and later he was captured and executed. Do you believe he was executed just for that? I'm calling all of you to reasoning. I see black folks who are commenting on Facebook saying very hard thing, very hurtful thing about us Haitians. I see Indians who are saying we came here to this country to do human trafficking. We came here to sell body parts. This country was built by our ancestors. This country became a republic by our black brother. Therefore, every black man should be free in this country. We Haitians, we have been living under stress. We hiding. We can't even have legal documentations. Do you think Bonham happy about that? When you as a black man, you go on Facebook and you making nasty comment, you saying that chasing these people away, you are a disgrace to this country and you don't deserve to be called a Guyanese. Why? Because a Guyanese is a person who is inherited of a country that was built under black people, strength and power. It's a country that built with black people blood. Our blood shed. How do you think our ancestors feel when you as a black man, you're treating the next black man like this? We've been in jail for no reason. We get arrested for no reason. And if you want us to get a visa, you also need to outline the possible way that we can have it. When you just come out and say, okay, you need a visa to come in, you don't say, how am I getting it? You're just bluffing. And it's clear that you're just trying to chase us away. And as black people, we have a right to be here. Because our ancestors, they fought for this. And we deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. Because without us, this would have never been possible. Thank you.
If you've never been to Haiti nor have Haitian friends, you would think that Haiti is the land of disaster, because that's how the media portrays it. Haiti is very often referred to as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, without stating the fact that ever since Haiti defeated the French army to gain its independence, it has been punished for its audacity. The 1804 Haiti massacre was carried out against the French population and French Creoles remaining in Haiti following the Haitian Revolution by soldiers, mostly former slaves, under orders from Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Dessalines was a leader of the Haitian Revolution and the first ruler of an independent Haiti under the 1805 Constitution. Under Dessalines, Haiti became the first country to permanently abolish slavery. Initially regarded as Governor General, Dessalines was later named Emperor of Haiti by generals of the Haitian Revolution Army and ruled in that capacity until being assassinated in 1806. He's regarded as one of the founding fathers of Haiti. Haiti was known as the Pearl of the Antilles. Resisting their exploitation, one of the most important outcomes of the Haitian Revolution was that it forced Napoleon Bonaparte to sell Louisiana to the U.S. in 1803, resulting in a major territorial expansion of the United States. When Haitians took their independence in 1804, they changed their colonial name from Saint-Domingue to its Taino name of Haiti or Haiti in Creole. Haiti has a complex, rich, fascinating, and tumultuous culture and history with stories of resistance, revolt, and instability. But one of the fundamental aspects of Haiti is its resilience. Joining us from Jamaica is the president of the Haiti-Jamaica Society, Sister Myrtha Desulme, and the lecturer of the Department of Language and Cultural Studies at the University of Guyana, Charlene Wilkinson. My sisters, greetings and welcome to the Bobb-Semple International Podcast.
Thank you, Ron. Greetings. Thank you for inviting us, and good afternoon to your listeners.
You're very much welcome. What was it like growing up in Haiti?
Well, I actually didn't grow up in Haiti. I actually grew up in Paris because my father was in the government, and he was also an industrialist, but he was a senator and a minister of government, and he went into exile, self-chosen exile for political reason when François Duvalier Papadoc came to power because he did not like his politics. Because he was an industrialist, when he was a minister, he had visited Jamaica before on official visits. So he knew the Jamaican directorate, and so they invited him to come and rebuild the factories he had had to leave behind in Haiti. So he settled in Jamaica to rebuild his factories. And my mother wanted us to be educated in French, so I grew up between Paris and Jamaica.
I attempted to give my listeners a brief early history of Haiti, or Haiti to many. This particular episode is entitled, Why Are Haitians Still Being Marginalized? Sister Myrtha, could you shed some light on that question, please?
Even though I did not grow up in Haiti, my parents always instilled the greatest love of Haiti in all of their children. And I always felt Haitian everywhere I went, even though I lived in many countries, in the States and in Germany and Spain. And whenever they would ask me where I'm from, I would say, it never occurred to me to say anything else but Haitian, because Haiti has the richest, most beautiful, most powerful, most inspiring history in the world, because Haitians literally invented human rights. Right? I mean, the revolutions which are considered the most important ones, which are, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, those revolutions, they mouthed platitudes about lofty ideals of human rights. And, we take this truth to be self-evident that all men are created equal. But we can see that up to today, all Americans are not equal, especially Black Americans who are still being murdered in the streets in bright daylight, right? And so the Haitians were the first in 1805 to write a constitution that said all men, regardless of skin color, religion, race, creed, are equal. And they established a government and a society where all men, regardless, were equal. And so that's why I say Haitians invented human rights. They established the notion that all men were equal, because the other revolutions still maintained slavery. They maintained slavery in spite of the lofty Declaration of the Rights of Man of the French Revolution and the US Constitution, 1776. They maintained slavery and they maintained white supremacy. Haiti was the one that broke the back of white supremacy. And that is why, to this day, Haitians are being crushed as an example to show for the maintenance of the ideology of white supremacy, to show that a Black nation cannot rule itself, and that the idea that the Haitians established in 1804, that white supremacy is not invincible and that Black people are entitled to freedom and self-determination and sovereignty, can be crushed and never been seen to succeed. That, in a nutshell, is the reason why Haiti is paying the price for every Black person. And not only Black person, because all other people, all other races, all other religions, all other gays, all oppressed people have taken Haiti as, not Haiti itself, but the struggle of Black people in the Western Hemisphere as the model, the blueprint for their struggles, whether they're gay, whatever it is. Everybody uses that same blueprint that Black people have used for their civil and human and political rights, the civil rights movement, all of that. So we are the pioneers of not only Black freedom. We did not only free Black people, we freed white people from the soul corrosive experience of owning other human beings, of being slave owners. But he was saying it in the context of civil rights. He was saying, we're not only freeing Black people, we're freeing white people from being oppressors. So just in a nutshell, people have to remember that if it wasn't for Haiti, a lot of us might still be walking around in shackles. I just wanted to end on that note.
What a statement. There has been an influx of Venezuelans who have been arriving into Guyana via the hinterland borders. Cubans have been traveling in droves weekly to shop in this South American nation. It is reported that there has been an unusually large influx of Haitian nationals who have entered Guyana but failed to leave, at least through the requisite legal channels. You are on the ground there in Guyana. What is your assessment as to how Haitians are being treated by the government there in your hometown?
The government of Guyana has made it quite clear what their attitude to Haitians is. They revoked a decree signed by President Granger in 2019, officially placing Haiti in the same context as all other Caribbean citizens coming into Guyana, being granted an automatic 6-month stay. Suddenly, another presidential decree automatically reverses that presidential order and strikes Haiti off the list. At the level of the ordinary people, it is unclear, but people may be asking, and this is why these kinds of programs I think are very crucial. The kind of history that Sister Myrtha just gave us is largely unknown to the average Guyanese. This is another thing. There is a kind of blackout in terms of knowledge of African history among the average Guyanese. I can't speak for other Caribbean societies, but I would like to suspect that it is the same thing, that history is not seen as something as important as science. The STEM subjects are more important than the knowledge of ourselves and where we came from. So you may have on the ground the average Guyanese asking questions like, are they coming to take our jobs? Why are they coming? What's going on in Haiti and how does that affect us? Why should we care? How can we help? Could we be at risk of the spread of COVID? Are they staying in Guyana or passing through? And if they're passing through, where are they going? Some might even ask, am I breaking the law if I choose to help them? And things like that. But what sticks out is a general difference between the way the government is acting and the way the average population seems a bit confused. Because Guyanese are accustomed to mixing and mingling with different races. And I don't believe that on the ground in Guyana, there's an issue with people coming in. But it is very evident that the amount of help being given to Venezuelans contrasts starkly from how Haitians are being treated. And I think this is the issue now that we have to discuss. Probe it, ask it, why? There's a whole geopolitical reality that we are locked into here that is definitely not helping us.
Haiti became the Caribbean Community, CARICOM's newest member on July 2nd, 2002, some 4 years after provisional membership had been granted. What has been the community's reaction to the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, withdrawing that automatic 6-month stay of Haitians on arrival in Guyana, now resulting in nationals having to acquire visas to get there?
I would say, I haven't done the research, but I would say there is general outrage. I believe that there's some iffiness. I mean, one of the shocking responses came from Ron Saunders himself, who suddenly flips, to my mind, on his position on Haiti and says that he agrees with the visa imposition. So we're getting some surprising, as the news called it, mixed responses. But I think the average African Guyanese on the ground is saying there's something not smelling too right here. Because they're seeing the Venezuelans coming in with no problem. And all of a sudden, there's an influx of African people and it's a big problem. And this is complicated, Ron. I need to say this right at the outset. This is complicated by a political/ethnic divide in the political culture that, although it reflects a good percentage of the Guyanese people, it does not tell the true story of the Guyanese people, because the reality is that the political elite is trapped inside that white supremacist model of economics and political rule. It is trapped inside it on both sides. So we have a dilemma there that we're still trying to figure out. We in the Haiti support group in Guyana are trying to figure out how to navigate inside this very complex situation.
Sister Myrtha, the population of the land of your parents' birth is 11.1 million. The population of Guyana is south of 800,000 people. Haiti has one of the lowest death rates from COVID-19 in the world. As of the end of April 2021, there have been some 254 deaths in Haiti. As of the end of June 2021, over 450 Guyanese have died from this pandemic. How would you respond to such a statistic?
For example, the Dominican Republic has had an explosive situation in terms of their COVID death and the cases that they have contracted, which is hundreds times that of Haiti. But because of the fact that they have such a big tourism sector, okay, that has affected them in that way. Now, Haiti, because they've been going through this political turmoil for the past couple of years, doesn't have that many tourists coming in. And then now they were drinking tea called Artemisa, which seemed to be very helpful because most of the population, as you said, was okay. But I have to report that sadly, in the last at least a month or so, things have gotten very bad because it seems that the new variant hit Haiti and that tea is not working anymore. And a lot of people have been contracting and they don't have any vaccine at all. Because from what I heard, the government got some offers, but said that they needed logistics in terms of the storage. They didn't have the facility to store the vaccine. So they did not receive any vaccine at all. I heard recently that the US government has announced millions of vaccine, I think 14 million, that is going to be distributed in the region, of which Haiti will be receiving some. But the situation is dire. A lot of people are dying right now. And there's very few facilities, very few hospitals, very few oxygen tanks. The medical personnel doesn't even have the PPE equipment. So right now it is extremely serious with the COVID situation in Haiti. I mean, because the numbers were lagging behind, it might still look low compared to some other countries in the region, but it's escalating exponentially.
Sister Charlene, is discrimination against Haitian nationals in Guyana blatant?
I haven't seen that on the ground. I haven't seen that. What I see again, and I keep saying this to people, is that again, our colonial education has made us not understand what we speak of as voodoo. They call it voodoo here. They don't understand the spiritual traditions of Haiti. And because we're so Christianized in Guyana, there is a tendency to reject the deep indigenous cultural reality of Haiti. And many Haitians who come to Guyana are Christians themselves, ardent churchgoers, and so on. So we have that discrimination at that level, but not in terms of person to person, race to race. It doesn't happen that way.
Let me just add on the question of voodoo. We can't just lay that at the feet of the Christianized population. You must admit that they received help from 200 years of propaganda, right, demonizing Haiti. The Haitian Revolution started in 1793. When people hear of a slave rebellion, they think of a 2-week skirmish or 3-day skirmish. That was a 13-year war, 13 years, where the Haitians took on the French, the British, and the Spanish, the 3 greatest powers of their times, and conquered them all to wrest the colony from them. Because Haiti was the most lucrative, the richest colony, the British and the Spanish were trying to take over. So they had to fight the French, fight the British, fight part of the Spanish, and wrest the colony from them. It lasted from 1791 to 1803, and then in 1st of January 1804, they declared independence. On the 14th of August 1791, revolution started by, it was like a ceremony. I call it the first Pan-African Congress because they had all the slaves from all different tribes who all met together, and they had like a voodoo ceremony where they invoked their gods, asked their gods to strengthen their arms and to help them to slay the wicked white man who thirsted for their tears. The reason why, it's not that the other Caribbean countries didn't have their little rebellions and revolutions, but the reason why they lasted 2 days is that there was always a traitor in the midst who would go and sell out the plant to the master so that they could become a house Negro instead of a field slave or get a few crumbs. So they made a pact, a blood pact, that they would not betray each other, right? And they would not sell out the runaway slaves, and return them. Excuse me, but I have to say, the Maroon Pact returned runaway slaves. And the reason why Haiti has been also ostracized is because Haiti put it in the constitution. They would absorb all runaway slaves and give them not only citizenship, immediate automatic citizenship, but the protection of the Haitian state, right? And that is when the colonialist powers realized that through that breach, because they had made the pact with the Maroons to return the runaway slaves, but now here was a free Black nation in their midst saying, we will take all runaway slaves and we will give them protection. And they realized that the whole international economic system based on slavery was going to be destroyed through that breach. That's why they had to ostracize and demonize Haiti. Now, to come back to the Wakaimo ceremony, it was a Vodun religion ceremony. It was a ceremony from the Vodun religion, which is just an amalgamation of African animist religions where they believe that their God is everywhere. He's in nature, he's in the trees, in the plants, and they live with their God. It's not a faraway God in the sky like the Christian God. It's a God that they live with. And so they invoke their gods, and that's what the ceremony was about. Now, the French and the British and Spanish could not admit that the greatest powers on earth, had been conquered by some slave rebels. So they had now to demonize that Vodun ceremony was a devil worship ceremony where they made a pact with the devil. Because of course, only a pact with the devil could defeat those great armies, right? They defeated Napoleon's Grande Armée, which was the mightiest army in Europe, conquering the whole of Europe at that time. So from that time, they started to drill into people's subconscious that Haiti is a devil worshiping country, that Vodun is evil, that they made a pact with the devil. And you saw during the earthquake in 2010, where Pat Robertson came to say that American preacher said that the earthquake was punishment for the pact that they made with the devil to get their independence. I mean, 2 centuries later, right? So this is not just them, is that has been a concerted international effort to demonize Haiti by every means necessary. The fact that you never hear the word Haiti without it being followed by the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, as if that were part of its name, is not an accident. It's something that is purposely done to drill into people's subconscious that Haiti is defined by poverty and misery and everything that everyone reviles and wants to run away from. Right?
Well, Myrtha, you are only reinforcing the point I'm trying to make about Christianity. And I would like it to go on record that I said that throughout the Guyana space, that is the work of Christianity, to erase and demonize all other spiritual traditions, including our indigenous. Our indigenous people know it well.
I'm not arguing against you, Sister Charlene. I'm buttressing what you're saying. I am saying that it's not only reserved to Guyana, it's an international
Yes, absolutely.
Campaign of Christianity to demonize, the African retentions and to demonize the indigenous religions as cults and evil and devil worshipping, and only their religion is sacrosanct, right? So I was reinforcing what
I see.
News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM has reported that Suriname, Barbados, and Dominica are among several other sister Caribbean community CARICOM member nations that require Haitians to obtain visas. Is this marginalization of Haitians spreading in the Caribbean? Either one of you can answer that.
I think Sister Myrtha can take that one for Guyana. We have a very, I would say, a small but very powerful Haiti support group in Guyana. We are not going to let it go. We're going to continue to speak, to fight, to struggle for the complete acceptance of Haiti as a Caribbean nation and our Haitian brothers and sisters as natural parts of us. I mean, the connection between us goes back to 1763 when Kofi attempted to declare an independent nation, held the state for 1 year. Some people say that the Haitians must have gotten wind of what was happening in Berbice in 1763. For in 1791, that revolution was successful in Haiti. There's a connection between the two, and we share that. African Guyanese in particular have to share that. In their blood, in their bones, they share that connection of revolt, of rebellion. The independence movement in much later down that Forbes and Chedi began as young men had that kind of spirit in it. There is something deep in the Guyanese spirit that still has not been killed. This recent overtaking by US imperialism, this blatant erosion of what is Guyanese, it is recent. This is not us. And I really need to, I'm not an expert, I'm not a historian, but I really need to speak from this place of an ordinary Guyanese who's got some experience interacting with young people at the university, that this is not our sentiment here to exclude Haitian people, to close ranks, the famous statement, when trouble comes, people close ranks. That is not how African people normally behave.
Sister Myrtha, tell us about the Haiti-Jamaica Society, of which you are the president.
It was precisely to draw Haiti out of this isolation, because CARICOM is mainly a British, old boys club from former British colonies. And Haiti is the only country in CARICOM. Well, Suriname later came to add to that, but at the time that it became a member, it was the only country that was not Anglophone, that had a different, language, a different religion, different culture, different history, we have the same African origins and the same colonial history. But then because Haiti's history is so different in terms of getting its independence in 1804 as opposed to 1962, right? With the prime minister having a dance with Princess Margaret in a cocktail dress, and Haitians slaughtering millions, drenching the soil of Haiti with the blood of Europeans. It was a different experience. So I wanted to create those links because, Jamaica is my homeland. I've lived here. As I said, I grew up between Jamaica and France, so I've lived here most of my life. Of course, when my father went back, I want to fill that part in. When the baby duck government, Jean-Claude government, fell in 1986, my father went back to Haiti. So I went back to Haiti. From those times, I've been going back to Haiti, right? Even though I did not grow up there. I try to create those links between Haiti and Jamaica, cultural links, social links, artistic links, commercial links, business links, just to open up Haiti to the rest of CARICOM. And, as the great journalist John Maxwell used to say, sometimes if the CARICOM governments don't live up to the creed of their mission, we should establish a CARICOM of the people. And I believe that is what Sister Charlene is trying to do. Is to establish a CARICOM of the people where we recognize ourselves as one. We don't have to go to the bureaucracies and the politics of the politicians who want to kowtow to Washington because they're trying to get a loan or a grant and they're willing to discriminate against. We have to elevate this debate. That's why we're going to the CCJ, because we have to establish, is Haiti a member of CARICOM or isn't it? If it's not, let's say so. Let's be done with this farce. But to have a member of the community that you're openly going to discriminate against and say, well, free movement of persons except for these people. We do that, but except for Haitians. It doesn't make sense. What's the point? No. Why did they invite them in the first place? Is it because they wanted to get the vast consumer market, of the 11 million people, and they figured, well, it might profit them economically, but we don't want the people?
And the unwillingness of the Caribbean leaders, the CARICOM leaders from the outside of Haiti, to accept the dilemma in Haiti as a dilemma of their own, to me, betrays their, I don't want to say cowardice, but it looks like cowardice, to face what is happening to the Caribbean, deal with it. We are being invaded. We are being taken over by US imperialism. Why do we have to hide it? Every group of people sitting down in the rum shops today, masks or no masks, know it. We know it. So at the level of leadership, why don't we call a spade a spade? The troubles of Haiti are our troubles, but we're not getting this. We're getting them closing ranks. Look, little Barbados wants to become a republic, but a republic with what? In name only, because it is locking out its brothers and sisters.
Guyana has apparently refused to administer the Cuba COVID-19 vaccines, Soberana, Abdala, and Mambisa, to the Guyanese populace. The government has chosen to inject the majority of its citizens with the Russian Sputnik V vaccine that has not been approved by the World Health Organization, the WHO. Haiti is home to more mountains than any other spot in the Caribbean, some of which are surrounded by water. This provides tourists a view of the mountains while they lounge beside the ocean, the best of both geographical vistas. Some of the tallest mountains in Haiti are the Pic de Sel, the Macaya, Voipin, and the Cadino mountain peaks. There are pristine beaches in Haiti. Sister Myrtha Desulme, Missy, and Sister Charlene Wilkinson, thank you for joining me on the Ron Bobb-Semple International Podcast. I certainly hope that our chat has shed a new light on the predicament that our Haitian brothers and sisters currently face, not only in Guyana, but also to let the world know that Haiti will rise again. Today is the tomorrow we have been waiting for since yesterday. Much appreciated to both of you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you for spending some time with us. If you are so inclined, you can subscribe to these podcasts and donate to them by clicking on the Support the Show button on the website. Please continue to protect yourself and your loved ones during this global pandemic by observing all protocols. Be safe, be strong, and be aware. I'm Ron Bobb-Semple.